नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीर्उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तां सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण। Before we begin today's class, anybody has any questions from yesterday's? So we'll go ahead, 14th chapter. Today at least I'll cover some of the things in a summary way so that some shlokas will take some discussion and then other things will come in summary in order that we can complete the syllabus. So yesterday we discussed till the 41st verse. So this verse was an important verse. The Brahmanas, they felt that they should do something. At the same time, they didn't want to take up the position of a Kshatriya as they did earlier to punish King Vena. This time they didn't want to say occupy the position of a throne or something like that. So as you know that apat dharma should be practiced only during the emergency, because the current Kali Yuga situation, as I mentioned yesterday, that many times the apat dharma gets extended over a period of time, and that is one of the reason if we sometimes when we analyze certain problems either in a family level or in a society level, some of the problems when we go into the deep and then we analyze, one of the reason is that the apat dharma is extended beyond the duration of the time. So then Like somebody who is not meant to perform some particular duty, he is performing that, then that creates certain imbalance or disturbance in that person's individual life and also the around him. So here the Brahmanas they were very cautious. They didn't want to fully get involved into ruling the kingdom. At the same time, they didn't want to remain aloof by seeing the suffering of the people. So what are they going to do? We'll see that. 42nd verse. Nangasya vamsho rajarsher yesha samstatum arhati amoga virya hinripa vamshesmin keshavashrayoho.
The sages decided that the descendants of the family of the saintly king Anga should not be stopped, for in this family the semen was very powerful, and the children were prone to become devotees of the Lord.
So they considered that Anga Maharaj's dynasty should not be destroyed. Because Keshavashraya, Vamshi Asmin Keshavashraya, many devotees who had taken shelter of Lord Vishnu had appeared in this dynasty. Amoga Virya, kings of unfailing strength. Our Prabhupada says that the purity of the hereditary succession is called Amoga Virya. The kings of unfailing strength had appeared in the dynasty. So this, like Anga Maharaj was a great soul, great devotee, great king. But somehow his semen got contaminated in connection with, when it came in contact with Sunita. So therefore, Vena was born as a demoniac son. Like yesterday we discussed, in a pure water, when it goes through impure filter, what comes out is the impure water. So if we compare Anga Maharaj, Sunita versus Hiranyakashipu and Kayadu, Hiranyakashipu was a demoniac person. Kayadu was not mentioned as a great devotee as such, but may not be not a very cruel lady. But because Kayadu, the child in the womb of Kayadu, got purified by the Bhagavatam spoken by Narada Muni, so therefore the child who was born, he turned out to be a great devotee actually. So we can like these two examples can be contrasted. And even another thing we can see, Diti wanted to get a son who can kill Indra. She was told to by Kashyapa Muni to perform the Pumsavana sacrifice, the worship of Lord Vishnu. And although she had a very evil intention, but by the process of devotional service, she became purified. And Indra, who came to assist Diti, he also became purified. And the children in the womb of Diti also got purified. So here, here Prabhupada emphasizes about the Garbhadana Samskara. The pious seminal discussion in the twice-born families of the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas, as well as in the families of Vaishyas, must be kept very pure by the observation of the Garbhadana Samskara. Unless this purificatory process is strictly observed, especially by the Brahmanas, the family descendants become impure and gradually sinful activities become visible in the family. So therefore, they wanted to get a proper king or a proper person in the dynasty of Anga Maharaj only. So therefore, what they are going to do is that they decide to actually churn the thighs of the dead body of King Vena. Sunita, because of her motherly affection, she had preserved the dead body of King Vena by certain herbs and mantras. But the Brahmanas, therefore, like one class Radhanath Maharaj mentioned that from one point of view, that motherly affection of Sunita, that was also a saving grace, in the sense because of that the body was preserved. Although her motherly affection was a more like a blind love. Like Diti, she had a blind love that Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, and they were killed by the Lord. She thought that Indra is responsible for the death of my sons, and she wanted to kill Indra. Sunita also had a blind love, and but then that became the saving grace, and the Brahmanas churned the body of King Vena by chanting the mantras. So when they churned, a dwarf-like person was born from Vena's body. So this also shows that there were some technologies or methods which were existing. The previous times people had certain mystic powers by which they could churn the dead body of Vena, and then one person was born. And that person was named as Bahuka. And he had a blackish complexion. And this person, he represented the sins of King Vena. And just like Maharaj mentioned that, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he mentioned in one class that when they churned the body of King Vena, initially the sins of King Vena emanated in the form of this darkish complexioned person. And then when they continued to churn, then the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, that is Pruthu Maharaj, was born. In the Samudra Manthan also, initially the poison appeared, and then later the nectar appeared. So even our process of bhakti or chanting of the holy names is also like churning. So initially when a person begins to chant, sometimes it may appear that we are becoming more, different anarthas are coming out. But then one should not lose that courage, one should not lose that determination. When a person continues to churn, in due course, the nectar in the form of the love of God will come. That also we can see. And another thing we can see in this episode is that Vena's body is like represents inauspiciousness. But when the Brahmanas or the devotees, Brahmanas, when they churned that body of Vena by chanting the mantras, then Pruthu Maharaj was born. So even the most inauspicious situation can be transformed into an auspicious situation when there is a association of the devotees and the chanting of the holy names. So this lesson can also be seen here. So when this person was born, so he inquired, what shall I do? The Brahmana said that, please sit down here. So please sit down, Nishida. So therefore, he was named later as Nishada. The father of the Naishada race was born. And he had a blackish complexion. Prabhupada also says that sometimes by seeing the complexion of a person, we can judge which varna he may belong to. Like that he says. So Naishada, he belonged to the Shudra varna because of his blackish complexion. So then this Nishada, he immediately took charge of all the resultant actions of King Vena's sinful activities. And then this Naishada class are always engaged in sinful activities like stealing, plundering, and hunting. So therefore, they are allowed to live in the hills and the forests. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that like we should know that even these sinful men can be delivered from their sinful condition to the topmost Vaishnava platform by the mercy of a pure devotee. So bhakti can elevate anyone, however sinful one may be. Mam hi partha vipasritya, epi syu papa yoneha, striyo vaishya tata shudra stepi yanti paramgati. So with this we come to the end of 14th chapter. So we'll begin the 15th chapter. So if there are any questions so far, otherwise we'll go ahead. So 15th chapter onwards, the Pruthu Maharaj's birth and activities, they are described till the 23rd chapter. This is Pruthu Maharaj's appearance and coronation. Maitreya uvacha atatasya punarviprair aputrasya mahipatehe bahubhyam matyamanabhyam mitunam samapadyata.
The great sage Maitra continued, My dear Vidura, thus the Brahmanas and the great sages again churned the two arms of King Vena's dead body. As a result, a male and female couple came out of his arms.
So a male and female came out of his arms when they continued to churn. Tadrishtva mitunam jatam rishyo brahmavadinah uchu paramasantushta viditva bhagavatkalam.
The great sages were highly learned in Vedic knowledge. When they saw the male and female bone of the arms of Vena's body, they were very pleased, for they could understand that the couple was an expansion of a plenary portion of Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So brahmavadinah, they were knowledgeable of the Vedas and they became highly satisfied. Paramasantushta viditva bhagavat kalam. Viditva, they understood that Bhagavat Kala, the portion of the Supreme Lord Bhagavan had appeared, and then they spoke. So here Prabhupada says that the method of the sages was perfect. They removed all the reactions of King Vena's sinful activities by seeing that Vena first gave birth to Bahuka, and then Vena's body was purified, and then a male and female came out of it. Rishaya vuchuhu yesha vishnur bhagavata kala bhuvana palini iyam cha lakshmya sambhuti purushasyana payini.
The great sage said, the male is a plenary expansion of the power of Lord Vishnu, who maintains the entire universe, and the female is a plenary expansion of the goddess of fortune, who is never separated from the Lord.
So here they are saying that Yesha Vishnur Bhagavata, he is an expansion of Lord Vishnu. Yesha Vishnur Bhagavata Kala and Bhuvana Palini, and she is the maintainer of the world. It's an expansion of Lakshmi. Iyam cha Lakshmya Sambhuti and Purushasya Anapayini. Anapayini means inseparable. Inseparable from the Lord. So here Prabhupada explains that how one should worship Lakshmi along with Narayana. So Ravan wanted Sita without Ram, and Shurpanaka wanted to enjoy Ram without Sita. Both are actually in one sense a demonic mentality. The combination of Lakshmi and Narayan, Sita and Ram, Radha, Krishna, the combination of Shakti and Shaktiman that actually brings auspiciousness to the entire world. That is why in the Ramayana, there were 3 separations which took place between Ram and Sita. 3 separations are 3 people united. One is the first Vishwamitra united Ram with Sita, and then Hanuman united Ram with Sita, and then the Valmiki Rishi finally united Ram with Sita, but then Sita, she entered the earth. So it is said that Vishwamitra, the name Vishwamitra means the friend of the entire world, but he fulfilled the meaning behind his name only when he united Ram with Sita. So this union of Ram and Sita, or Lakshmi and Narayan, that is auspicious for the entire world. So in this theme, Prabhupada writes different purports. The 8th canto in the Lakshmi Devi's marriage with Narayan, the Samudra Manthan. So it's explained that Lakshmi Devi is situated at the bosom of Narayan. And the goddess of fortune, by her favorable and merciful glance, can increase the opulence of the 3 worlds along with their inhabitants and their directors, the Devatas. So when a person worships Lakshmi without Narayan, aspiring for fruitive results and opulences, Lakshmi may reward that person, but the opulence of such a person will not be permanent. It will be temporary. But Prabhupada says the opulence of the devotees who are attached to the service of Narayan is not like the opulence of karmis. The opulence of the devotees is as permanent as the opulence of Narayan himself. So here again Prabhupada explains that those who are very rich and have taken favor of the goddess of fortune in this world must engage their money in the service of the Lord. In this way, they can continue in their opulent position without disturbance. So then the Brahmana said that Ayam tu pratamo ragya puman pratayita yashaha Pruturnama Maharajo Bhavishyati Prutushrava.
Of the 2, the male will be able to expand the reputation throughout the world. His name will be Pruthu. Indeed, he will be the first among kings.
So the male, the first among the kings, the male will increase his fame. He'll be a great king, he'll be great king widely known as Prutushrava. Therefore, he will be called as Pruthu. So this Pruthu Maharaj is a living entity, but who is endowed with the ruling potency of the Lord. Therefore, he is a Shakti-Avesha incarnation. And the female, she will actually, this is a beautiful verse, Yam cha Sudati Devi Guna Bhushana Bhushana Archir Nama Vararoha Prutum Yevavarundati. So this female has such beautiful teeth and beautiful qualities that she will actually beautify the ornaments she wears. Guna Bhushana Bhushana. Just 1 second. 1 minute. So, like, there is another famous verse in the third canto that Tataiva Chanye, no, what is that verse? Parampadam Bhushana Bhushanangam. Yan Martya Leelav Payikam Swayoga Maya Balam Yanmartya Leelav Payikam Swayoga Maya Balam. In that verse it comes that Parampadam Bhushana Bhushanangam. So Krishna's body is the ornament for the ornaments. So here Archi's qualities became the ornaments for her ornaments. Archi's qualities increase the beauty of her ornaments. So if we see that generally when we talk about personality development course, the common world, so the notion is in terms of how to improve the, say, accent of the person, or how to make him converse with the new people, or how to dress in a particular way. Generally personality development, it's in terms of maybe improving the physical personality or improving the hairstyle. So but here when we talk about real personality development is actually the improving the character and the qualities of the person, and they are actually the real ornaments of the person. In the Ramayana we have the Sundara Kanda, and some Sri Vaishnava Acharyas, they explain that like the Sundara in the Sundara Kanda, whom does it refer to? Does it refer to Ram or Sita or Hanuman? They ask different questions. Then they say that the Sundara in Sundara Kanda, it refers to Hanuman. But then one may say, but Hanuman is not physically beautiful. Why is he referred to as Sundara? So here Hanuman is called as Sundara because of his beautiful qualities of faith in Lord Ram. So therefore that whole canto is called as Sundara Kanda. So here Archi's qualities actually beautified the ornaments she wears. So therefore her name will be called as Archi. In future, she will accept Pruthu as her husband. So this may appear sometimes both are born from the same body. In one sense, like a brother and sister, how can they get married? From material conception, it is little maybe a little confusing, but actually we have to understand that they are actually, both of them are they are eternal consorts. And Pruthu is a expansion of Vishnu and Archi is an expansion of Lakshmi. That's why the word Anapayini, that word came. Na? Anapayini means they are inseparable, eternal consort of Lord Vishnu. So both of them will get married. 6th verse. Yesha Sakshad Darer Hamso Jata Lokari Rakshaya Iyam Cha Tatpara Hishrir Anujajnena Payini.
In the form of King Prithu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has appeared through a part of his potency to protect the people of the world. The goddess of fortune is the constant companion of the Lord, and therefore she has incarnated partially as Archi to become King Prithu's queen.
So, yeah. Whenever one sees an extraordinary power, he should conclude that a specific partial representation of Supreme Lord is present. And there are innumerable such personalities, but not all of them are direct Vishnu Tattva. So many living entities, they are called as Shakti Tattvas, or they are the Shaktyavesha avatars of the Lord. So then, at that time, all the Brahmanas highly praised King Prithu, And Gandharvas came and chanted the glories of King Pruthu, Siddhaloka, and the different residents of the higher planet. They showered flowers and danced in ecstasy. Various nice musical instruments were played. So then Brahmaji came. So this 9th and 10th verse is important. Brahma Jagat Gurur Devai Sahasritya Sureshwarai Vainyasya Dakshine Haste Drishtva Chinnam Gadabhrutah Padayoraravindam Cha Tam Vai Mene Hare Kalam Yasya Pratihatam Chakram Amshassa Parameshtinaha.
Lord Brahma, the master of the entire universe, arrived there accompanied by all the demigods and their chiefs. Seeing the lines of Lord Vishnu's palm on the king's Pruthu's right hand and impressions of lotus flowers on the soles of his feet, Lord Brahma could understand that the king Pruthu was a partial representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One whose palm bears the sign of a disc, as well as other such lines, should be considered a partial representation or incarnation of the Supreme Lord.
So this is an important verse. Brahma, who is the Guru of the universe, Jagat Gurur Devai. So how Brahma recognized Pruthu? So as he is the Guru of the entire universe, therefore Brahma's example should be carefully observed here. He arrived along with the Devatas, Sahasritya Sureshwara, and Vainyasya Dakshine Haste Drishtva Chinnam Gadabhrutah. He saw the mark of the club Gada on the Pruthu's right hand, Dakshine Haste, and Padayor Aravindam Cha, lotus on his 2 feet. Then he understood Tamvai Mene Hare Kalam. He understood that Pruthu, whose Yasya Apratihatam Chakram, whose other lines were the same as that of the Lord's, is a Amshasa Parameshtina, is the portion of the Supreme Lord. So therefore, Brahmaji did not blindly accept Pruthu as a portion of the Lord. He saw the symbols of Vishnu on him and then he accepted. So in this world, we have, there are many products which come available in the market. Many times fake products are there with some famous brand, with the name of the famous brand. And common people get cheated by those external sticker of the famous brand on the fake product. So we have different laws for actually checking. There are there were court cases which happened between I think Samsung or some company and Apple. Apple sued some company saying that, oh, this company they try to have the same model or same type of apps like our products, and they have just copied, and then they actually put a case and then they won that case. So like that, for every product there are patent laws and many other things are there. But in the religious field, when somebody claims oneself to be God, then we don't have patent laws to punish those people like that. So it's one of the actually duty to actually check such kind of imposters and punish those people. So when we talk about somebody is claiming to be Bhagavan, we can ask different questions. The first is, okay, in which Shastra is this person mentioned as Bhagavan? Is there a Shastrik Pramana? Second question is, can you show your universal form? It's like Krishna could show the universal form. And third, which Acharya or Mahajans, which other Acharyas have accepted you as the Bhagavan? And then fourth is, are there any divine markings on your body? Natural divine markings, not some tattooed, some natural divine markings. And fifth is, can that person perform certain superhuman activities? And if he has performed, what are the superhuman activities? These are the 5 important questions in relation to like checking a fake incarnation from a true avatar. Like one purport, Prabhupada says, 3rd canto. So Lord Vishnu is sleeping in the bed of Ananta Sesha, and he's having a very peaceful, deep sleep. Although he's surrounded by waves which make very strong sounds. So even we can check a Bhagavan by the sleep test. That means make him actually sleep in the bed of a snake, being surrounded by a lot of noise. Is that person able to sleep peacefully in that condition? Or other tests like stool test. The stool of that Bhagavan, is it emitting some fragrance? So these are, of course, these are some superhuman activities are the tests by which we can check. So this is an important verse, like Brahma is actually saw the markings and then he accepted. So then all the Brahmanas arranged for Pruthu's coronation, and people from all the directions, they came for the ceremony. So when the coronation ceremony was complete, so now the next series of verses talk about how the different personalities gave different gifts to King Pruthu. You can read from the, we'll recite 12th verse. Sarit samudra girayo naga gava kaga mriga dyaukshiti sarva bhutani samajakrur upayanam.
All the rivers, seas, hills, mountains, serpents, cows, birds, animals, heavenly planets, the earthly planet, and all other living entities.
So here we see that all of them, they offered presentations according to their ability. And so what different people offered to King Pruthu, that is the description of the next series of verses. So Pruthu was exquisitely dressed with ornaments, and Archi was also appeared exactly like fire. So Kuvera presented a golden throne, Varuna presented an umbrella which constantly sprayed fine particles of water and was as brilliant as the moon. So Vayudev presented 2 chamaras. Dharma presented him with a flower garland which would expand his fame or which would never fade. Indra presented a valuable helmet. So this section also, we will also see next chapter also. But this shows that how all the devatas, they respected this Amsha of Vishnu. How all the devatas, they came and gave different gifts to Pruthu Maharaj. Yamaraj presented him with a scepter with which to rule the world. Brahma presented with a protective garment made of spiritual knowledge. And Saraswati gave him a transcendental necklace. Vishnu presented him with a Sudarshan disc. So Prabhupada clarifies that Sudarshan disc given to him represented the partial power of the original Sudarshan disc. And Lakshmi Devi presented him, gave him imperishable opulences. 17th verse. Dashachandram asimrudra Shatachandram tatambika Somo mrutamayana Tvashta rupashrayam ratam.
Lord Shiva presented him with a sword within a sheath marked with 10 moons, and his wife, the goddess Durga, presented him with a shield marked with 100 moons. The moon demigod presented him with the horses made of nectar, and the demigod Vishwakarma presented him with a very beautiful chariot.
So, Agni offered a bow made of goat and a cow horn. Sun god offered arrows made of light rays. Earth offered shoes with magic power. The sky offered a stream of flowers daily. So these verses, we can see how all the devatas respected. When we say in the king is a pratinidhi of all the devatas and Vishnu, we can practically see in these verses. And also how a devotee who is endowed with a particular power is also empowered by the different devatas. Devatas show respect to that devotee. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, one of the item of sadhana bhakti is offering notable prayers to Lord, to the deity of Krishna. So the Skanda Puran, there is a verse which says that Sri Krishna's stava Ratnaugair Yesham Jihvat Valankrita Namasya Munisiddhanam Vandaniya Divaukasam. The perfected sages and the devatas respect those whose tongues are ornamented with the abundance of jewel-like verses of praise of Krishna. Means like the person who offers notable prayers to the deity of Krishna, that person becomes worshipable by the devatas. All the devatas show respect to that person. So we can see all the devatas are showing respect. And more gifts are described. 19th verse. Natyam sugitam vaditram Antardanam cha kechara Rishayas chashishas satya Samudra shankamatmajam.
The demigods who always travel in outer space gave King Pruthu the arts are to perform dramas, sing songs, play musical instruments, and disappear at his will. The great sages also offered him infallible blessings. The ocean offered him a conch shell produced from the ocean.
So here we see that further gifts are described. The seas, mountains, rivers, they give him room to drive the chariot without impediments. And then now the Suta, Magadha and Vandi, they started offering prayers to Vishnu. They started offering glorification to Pruthu Maharaj. So this last section of this chapter is important. We'll go to these verses. So when they started, when they were about to start glorifying Pruthu Maharaj, so that time Pruthu Maharaj starts speaking. 22nd verse. Pruturuvacha Bosuta he Magada Saumya Vandil Loke Duna Spashta Gunasya Me Syat Kimashrayo Me Stava Yesha Mamai Abhuvan Vitata Girovaha.
King Pruthu said, O gentle Sutta, Magadha, and other devotee offering prayers, the qualities of which you have spoken are not distinct in me. Why then should you praise me for all these qualities when I do not shelter these features? I do not wish for these words meant for me to go in vain, but it is better that they be offered to someone else.
So here, like these few verses are very important verses. So one difference we can see immediately between Pruthu Maharaj and Vena. So Vena had a quality, he was demanding respect. Yesterday when we discussed, when the Brahmanas gave advice to Vena, like the Vena chastised them, and he said that you should be worshipping me, but instead of that you want to worship some devatas and Vishnu. You are actually having an illicit relation with a paramour. So Vena had a quality of demanding respect. But Pruthu Maharaj, even before he exhibited any qualities and activities, he actually, just by his appearance, he commanded respect from others. He attracted respect from other people. But when they came to glorify him, Pruthu Maharaj is saying that, like, how can these praises be directed to me? Loke aduna aspashta gunasya me syat. Aspashta. I have not proved, I have not exhibited any qualities. Aspashta gunasya. Who have unproven qualities at this time. Aduna, that means at this time I have not proven all these qualities, I have not exhibited any of these qualities. And kim ashrayo me stava yesha yojyatam. These words cannot be applied to me but to others. So mamai abuvan vitato girova. Your words should not be false in being directed to me. So we can see the stark contrast between Pruthu and Vena. Pruthu, he is saying that please actually offer this glorification to some other person. I have not exhibited these qualities. So they are saying that they say that we cannot, like, Pruthu is asking that what qualities do you see in me in order to praise me? So then they say, but we cannot exist without praising. We cannot live without praising. And then Pruthu says that, okay, then if you cannot live without praising, then you praise some other person. This should be done to someone else who has the qualities and not to me because I don't have these qualities. Then the Sutta Magadha Vandi says that, what fault do you have if he praise you? So what are you afraid of? Then Pruthu says that there is no fault for me, but you will incur sin for this, and that is what I am fearing. Because your words should not be in vain being directed towards me. So we see, like, there is a Subhashita from a book called as Yashas Tilakacham. Nastu yadatmanatmanam na param parivadayet na satonya gunan himsyan nasata swasya varnayet. One should not indulge in self-praise, nor should one condemn others. One should neither deny or conceal qualities of others, nor should one speak about those of his qualities that do not exist. So it is said that praising oneself or engaging others to praising oneself, boasting about oneself, it is like a kind of is equivalent to committing suicide. So when others, suppose, serve more food than our capacity, it becomes difficult for us to eat and digest it. Similarly, when others glorify us more than what we are, so at that time we don't think deeply about it. Or, yeah, because when we accept glorification more than what we are, then that will cause an indigestion also. So that's why it is important that when others praise us, it's important that we take it in the right spirit. And for example, in the Ramayana, Varuna did not accept the Sharanagati of Lord Ram. It is said that like when Lord Ram wanted to build a bridge across the ocean, like he was appealing to Varuna. Varuna did not come, and after 3 days of fasting, then the Ram became angry. He was about to actually shoot arrows at Varuna. At that time, Varuna came. So it is said that Vibhishan was the person who advised Ram to worship Varuna so that he may give way for crossing the ocean. So, but Varuna did not come. He came after 3 days when Ram was about to shoot arrows at him. The reason why Varuna did not come was that Varuna was thinking that, like, I don't have the patrata to accept the Sharanagati of Lord Ram. Ram is worshipping me, Ram is surrendering to me, but I don't have the qualification to accept Ram's Sharanagati. So therefore, Varuna did not come. So then when Ram was about to punish Varuna, at that time Varunadev felt that, at that time Varunadev immediately appeared because he felt that I am fit for the punishment by Lord Ram, but I am not fit to give shelter to Lord Ram. So this is an important thing. Like sometimes one may take a role beyond one's level, or one may accept the respect from others. Like when you are not strong, then it will cause a certain indigestion. Like Bhagavatam also mentions in regards to praising and criticizing, it is said that parasvabhava karmani na prashamsen na garghayet vishwam ekatmakam pashyan prakritya purushena cha. One should neither praise nor criticize the conditional nature and activities of other persons. Yeah, when we praise and criticize, it should be in relation to the spiritual qualities, or even when we glorify the material qualities, we see the material qualities in connection as a spark of the splendor of Krishna. Yadyad vibhutimat sattvam srimat urjitam eva. So when we see the material qualities disconnected from Krishna, then that kind of praise is not recommended in the Shastra. And if we compare like Pruthu Maharaj versus Poundraka was also praised by his followers. The followers praised him as a Lord Vasudev. And Poundraka accepted those praises. But Pruthu Maharaj, he actually has the qualities which we are going to explain. But Pruthu Maharaj still, he did not, like he told them not to glorify him, because he said that at this point I have not exhibited these qualities. So when Narada Muni, different places in the Bhagavatam we can see, like Narada Muni glorified Brahma as the Supreme Lord. And then what was Brahma's reaction? Brahma said that what you say about me is not untrue. What you say about me is not untrue, because people not knowing the difference between me and the Lord, they say that I have that power. So it is not untrue when you say that I alone create the living beings. Because if a person does not know the difference between myself and the Lord, it will appear that I am in that position. Means like Brahma is saying that basically only ignorant people glorify me as if I am the Supreme Lord, because they don't know the difference between me and Vishnu. And then Brahma says that Vilajyamanaya yasya tatum iksha pate muya Vimohita vikattante mamaham iti durdiyaha. If the ignorant jivas, bewildered by Maya, who is ashamed to stand in sight of the Lord, they boast about in terms of me and mine. So in that purport, Vishnu Chakravarti says that those who give respect and receive respect without reference to the Lord, both are bewildered by Maya, who is situated at the back of the Lord. So not only those who give respect, even those who receive respect, both are bewildered by Maya, without reference to the Lord. When Yamadutas, when they glorified Yamaraj, till now we thought that you are the supreme in this universe. Is there somebody above than you? Then Yamaraj was immediately very quick to accept that he is not the supreme. You have accepted me as the supreme, but factually I am not. So one thing we find in the Bhagavatam, say different examples can be thought about, but and two qualities of the great souls, what we can see is that the great souls, even when they have certain qualities, even when they have accomplished certain things, still they don't take credit for those qualities. They don't take credit for those accomplishments. And sometimes they take blame, they willingly take blame for those things, for those mistakes which they have not done, which they are not responsible. This is how, like, responsible people, they even take the blame for which they have not committed, and then they are reluctant to take credit for those things which they have done. Like Yudhishthira Maharaj, he said that I am responsible for all the killings which have taken place. Although, like, he didn't have any evil intention, he just fought as a matter of Kshatriya Dharma, under the guidance of Krishna. Here, Pruthu Maharaj, like, he has those qualities, he'll be exhibit those qualities, but he's not willing to accept this glorification. And we can also see other examples, like when the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described the incarnations for the different yugas, then Sanatana Goswami, like, he, in a very clever way, he questioned Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I am a very insignificant jiva. I am very low and poorly behaved. How can I understand who is the incarnation for Kali Yuga? So Sanatana Goswami wanted to actually, in one sense, expose Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's incarnation. But Mahaprabhu replied, as in other ages, an incarnation is accepted according to the directions of the Shastra. In this age of Kali, an incarnation of God should be accepted in the same way. And Prabhupada there, he explains about the Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vakya, Chittete, Kariya, Akya. So Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, this is we see the Pramanas are Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. All three should confirm each other. In the Manu Samhita, when Manu is one of the Mahajans, when he talks about how to understand what is Dharma, he says, Veda Akila Dharma Moolam Smriti Shilecha Tad Vidam Acharashchaiva Sadhunam Atmana Tushti Revacha. If you want to understand Dharma, there are four sources. First is the Vedas, and second is the Smriti Shastras written by the sages, and third is the conduct of the sadhus or the Guru, and fourth is the mind of the great souls. Through these four sources, we can understand what is Dharma or what is incarnation also. So Sanatan Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand. When Mahaprabhu told this, Sanatan Goswami became a little more direct. He was trying to corner Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The incarnation of Krishna for the sage is indicated by these symptoms. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam. Please confirm this definitely so that all my doubts will go away. So when he cornered Mahaprabhu, so Mahaprabhu said he said that Chaturali Chada Sanatana Shaktya Vesha Avatarera Shuna Vivarana. You must give up your intelligent tricks. Now just try to understand the description of the Saktya Vesha avatars. Mahaprabhu changed the topic. So another thing we see Srila Prabhupada also in the same this episode, when some devotees suddenly started propagating that Prabhupada is Krishna. So does anybody remember what Prabhupada said at that time? And Prabhupada was called as God. So that time Prabhupada said that the only thing which is worse than underestimating the Guru is to overestimate the Guru. The only thing worse than underestimating the Guru is overestimating the Guru. They have said, I am God. Therefore, if I am God, then they also can become God. And this is impersonalism. And then he told that those devotees should be removed from ISKCON. So this, like generally we find that the tendency of common people, like they tend to say glorify somebody leader or a sadhu person in saffron. They tend to glorify that person as if like you are in this level. So they tend to glorify as if you are in this level. And then when you commit some mistakes, when you come from this level to this level, then they will criticize as if you are in this level. So generally, those who over glorify, they also end up going to the other extreme. They tend to over criticize also. So it is important to actually respect a person according to that person's level. So that is why sometimes like when we talk about like the same principle, over glorifying, over criticizing, like sometimes when we talk about all the time about submission, like even in ISKCON, there are some people who are highly submissive to their Guru, and they were the people at a point of time they became completely rebellious. Actually, they went to the other extreme. So it is important that like even after Prabhupada's this one, sometime certain Prabhupada disciples, like they were worshipped like Prabhupada, like the zonal Acharya system, and then and some of them were not able to accept that respect. Like when people glorify us more than our position, and when we accept that respect, just like when people serve more than your capacity, but then you end up you start eating that, then it causes indigestion. So then when people started accepting that, and then that caused a certain downfall in them actually. So therefore this episode of Pruthu Maharaj is important. This can be seen to the Shastric examples in the Bhagavatam, contemporary example, Prabhupada's life and other things. How when people try to say over glorify us, so it is important that we clarify we are not in that level. Or, so this is an important, and also Prabhupada especially gives some purports in regards to in the current times the people glorify somebody as an incarnation. Says like, so these Suta, Magadha and Vandi, like their offering prayers to Pruthu Maharaj was certainly appropriate, because Pruthu was an incarnation of Godhead. But Pruthu warned that one should not be accepted as an incarnation of the personality of Godhead without having the godly qualities. Because Pruthu knew that in the future, many people will claim themselves to be an incarnation. But although they would not have godly qualities. So King Pruthu desired that his real characteristics in the future might justify such words of praise. Although there was no fault in the prayers offered, Pruthu Maharaj indicated that such prayers should not be offered to an unfit person who pretends to be an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So, and also in these verses, when Pruthu Maharaj is denying, another thing we can see is that generally, like for a conditioned false ego, like we like to be respected and glorified actually. Like people, the concept of shelter on a physical level, it means say roti, kapada, makan, it's a place, good food, something on a physical level. And shelter on a emotional level is like somebody appreciating. Emotional shelter is our false ego. So that means we want to be recognized and appreciated. So one class Radhanath Swami Maharaj mentioned, to the degree we are not experiencing real love, then we may need those things like respect and shelter. So humility is a natural symptom of one who loves God. If one is finding fulfillment within, then whether one is praised or blamed, it really does not matter, because one is experiencing the God's love. So in that sense, like the Pruthu Maharaj did not have any craving for to be respected. So when a person has some craving or some expectation of respect from others, that is a sign that we have not actually got a taste for glorifying Krishna, or we have not got a taste for hearing and chanting. So once one devotee asked that how do we, when others glorify us, how should we actually take it? The first point is that, so we should know that if it is not for the instruction of Guru Maharaj, like we could not be doing anything. So basically it's the empowerment and the mercy of the superiors which is making us perform those great acts. We should think like that. And the second is, we should become humbled and grateful to whatever that person is praising us. Whatever that person is praising us, we should become humbled and grateful. And then we should think that if only that person knew what type of contamination is there within my heart, he wouldn't be praising me. In fact, he would be vomiting on my face. But actually, only I know what is inside my heart. So therefore, a devotee thinks that when he is praised, he becomes more humbled by it, because a devotee is aware, he is remembering his shortcomings. So therefore, he becomes humbled. Oh, this person is not knowing my anarthas. So because of that, he is praising me. Or another point is that like when the other person is praising us, like we should be praying to the Guru and Krishna. Actually, it is all your grace, it is all your mercy. And we should tell that person, it is all by the mercy of Guru and Krishna that I am nothing. And then Maharaj mentioned, one should say like that and one should also feel like that. Not only say like that, one should also feel like that. And then And then another point Maharaj mentioned was that actually, see, I am not such an elevated person. Even I think the Vaishnavas also know that. But nevertheless, because they try to encourage a neophyte person like me, therefore they are trying to, it is their kindness that they are trying to encourage me through these words. So in this way, we should think like that. So like Maharaj mentioned. So we can see Pruthu and Paundraka. Sanatan Goswami in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, the concluding verse he says, Sarvatyage Aheyava Sarva Anartha Bhuyaschate Kuryu Pratishta Vishtaya Yatnam Asparshane Varam. Even if one can give up all the material desires, the desire for fame is very difficult to give up. And this desire for fame, which is compared to the stool, is the root cause of all the anarthas. Therefore, one should carefully avoid touching this stool-like desire for fame. So we'll take a break here, then we'll continue. Will become manifested to you clearly in the future. So we know that, so therefore we are praising now only. Then Pruthu Maharaj says that, so then when my qualities become manifest in the future, then you can glorify me as much as you want, but please do not do that now. So, and who will forbid you? Do it indirectly and not directly. And all of you are very skilled in you have great skill in attractive words. It is not proper to embarrass a person by glorifying him face to face. So please don't embarrass me by glorifying me face to face. Then they are saying that, so what should we do? We have started glorifying you, being inspired by the entire assembly, because we saw in front of our eyes that all these devatas are offering such great gifts to you, and Vidyadharas, Gandharvas, and are respecting you. Being inspired by them, we are offering a glorification. Then Pruthu says that is useless. The pastimes of the Lord should be chanted at all times and places. Therefore, you should not praise a low, recent person like me. Otherwise, you are not a worthy assembly. So, like recently, I attended a all counselor meeting. So they had since last time they started as part of the ACM. So one part of the meeting was what is called as Satkar. Like some devotees who have done like wonderful service consistently for a period of many years. In order to recognize them, they glorify the devotee and then give some gift like that. So there was one elderly devotee, Radha Kanta Prabhu. He's 80 plus actually. So they glorified him nicely, and then they told about his services, etc. And then this devotee just nonchalantly, like every point which the others glorified him, for every point he gave actually different explanation only. Just like if you read the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narada Muni goes and actually glorifies each and every devotee. And every devotee who is glorified by Narada Muni, they give a different perspective for that each of the glorification. They completely divert that actually. Like that Narada Muni speaks that verse Satyam Vidatum Nijabhritya Bhashitam. How Lord Narsingadev appeared to prove the words of Prahlad Maharaj. But Prahlad Maharaj gives a different explanation for that verse only. So here Pruthu Maharaj is saying that Pruthu Maharaj is similarly diverting here. Said, better you glorify the Supreme Lord. Otherwise you are not a worthy assembly. Next verse. Mahadgunan Atmani Kartumisha Kastavakaistavayate satopi. Tesya bhavishyan yiti vipralabdo. Janavahasam kumatirna veda.
How could an intelligent man competent enough to possess such exalted qualities allow his followers to praise him if he did not actually have them? Praising a man by saying that if he were educated, he might have become a great scholar or great personality is nothing but a process of cheating. A foolish person who agrees to accept such praise does not know that such words simply insult him.
So here Pruthu Maharaj says that then the Sutta Magadas are saying that, but you are the Supreme Lord, you are the incarnation of the Lord, therefore you are worthy to be praised. Then Pruthu says that though it is possible for the best person to manifest in himself qualities of the Lord, what wise person would make others glorify him? No one would do that even if he has the qualities. If he does not have the qualities and cannot manifest such a qualities, only a fool would have others praise him. That fool does not know that it's an insult. See, this is like suppose like a person is engaging others to praise him and he is not having the qualities, but he is engaging others to praise him. So it is actually a criticism of him, but he does not recognize that it is a criticism. So there are two concepts, Vyaja Stuti and Ati Stuti Ninda. Vyaja Stuti means sometimes say two devotees are conversing, they appear to be criticizing each other. But actually they are indirectly praising them. Their intention is to praise them, but appear to be criticizing each other. When Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, when they were taking prasadam, Advaita Acharya told Nityananda Prabhu that I don't know with whom I'm taking prasadam. I don't know this person's caste, background, all these things. But by taking prasadam with this Nityananda Prabhu, I think my caste will be lost. I will get contaminated. So like that Advaita Acharya said. And then Nityananda Prabhu said in response, I am taking prasadam with this Advaita Acharya. So I fear that by taking prasadam along with him, my mind can get contaminated with the Advaita philosophy. I may become an impersonalist or monist. So actually, Advaita Acharya was such a person that he does not simply see when a Vaishnava is, he does not see a Vaishnava based on a caste. Because Advaita Acharya was the person who gave the first Shraddha Patra to Haridas Thakur. So Nityananda Prabhu is also such an elevated devotee. Why would Advaita Acharya see Nityananda Prabhu in terms of what is his caste, what is his background? And Nityananda Prabhu knows that how Advaita Acharya was so attached to Bhakti that he would try to see every verse of Gita in connection with Bhakti. And Mahaprabhu revealed that in the Mahaprakash Leela. Nityananda was also aware of that. And when Advaita Acharya could not understand that verse, Sarvata Pani Padam Tat Sarvatokshi Shiro Mukam, in relation to Bhakti, like he started fasting actually. And then Mahaprabhu said that I came in your heart and then revealed the meaning of that verse. So, but Nityananda Prabhu appears to be criticizing Advaita Acharya. So Kaviraj Goswami says that in this way, both of them were praising each other, but through the medium of Vyaja Stuti. So Vyaja Stuti is something criticism externally, but internally it is a glorification. But opposite to that is, we can say something, I don't know exact Sanskrit term, but something like Ati Stuti Ninda. A person externally appears to be glorifying, but in truth it is a criticism. In truth it is actually a criticism. But a foolish person, he doesn't recognize that it is a criticism. He engages the people to glorify him. So that is the point here. So-called incarnations of Godhead should therefore take lessons from the behavior of Pruthu. Demons without godly quality should not accept false praise from their followers. So persons famous for a person with a next verse. Prabhavo hyatmana stotram jugupsantyapi vishruta ह्रीमंत परमोदारा पौरुषम va vigarhitam.
As a person with a sense of honor and magnanimity does not like to hear about his abominable actions, a person who is very famous and powerful does not like to hear himself praised.
So actually, I'll read Bhanu Maharaj's translation because I'm little confused about this translation. But Bhanu Maharaj says that persons famous for good qualities, who are modest and generous, they detest praise of themselves as if it were criticism of their abilities. The persons like those who actually have good qualities, they detest praise of themselves as if it were criticism of their abilities. So when somebody praises, oh, this person is so qualified, he doesn't have to follow the rules of dharma. So such a praise is rejected as censoring their abilities. Vigarhitam paurusham. So therefore, Pruthu said that, my dear devotees, just now I am not very famous for any personal activities because I have not done anything praiseworthy you could glorify. Therefore, how could I engage you in praising my activities exactly like children? In this way, this chapter ends. And then how do the Suta Magadamandi respond as the next chapter? So anybody has any points or questions, comments, and we'll start next. Yes.
Like in this second last verse, Pruthu Maharaj is saying that a person who is very famous and powerful does not like to hear himself praised. So when a person is in a position of giving instructions or he's establishing dharma in some way, like here he is saying that a person who is very famous and powerful does not like hear. So he's telling that this should be the code of conduct. But he's himself living by that code of conduct while saying it also. So how does he not connect it to his own practice at that moment? Means when we establish dharma in speech, so usually we are trying to be the practitioner of the dharma also as we speak also. So one of the features of that is like, then there may be a self praise in that only. That we are establishing like I am right. No? Of course, here he is trying to actually go away from praise, but then like any good action of a devotee, when we say that a sincere devotee should be like this. So in the background of every act, there has to be certain personal practice also of that same nature. So how will that feeling of that sincerity not get attributed in his own heart to one's own self? What way he works on his life? I hope I could, like the conditioned soul likes to be likes to get praise also, but then that if when we say something, to not see that okay, this is what I am trying to do also, to just be away from that self-praise coming into the mind, what does the devotee do actually?
What does the devotee?
Uh,
Like one thing is, see, sometimes, especially on our level,
our level only.
we are
my
actually
level.
struggling. We are all sadhakas, but Bhagavatam philosophy is like very high level Paramahamsa Samhita. One class, Radhanath Maharaj mentioned the sixth canto in the Maruts episode. The Maruts episode, story of the Maruts, finally, when the Maruts are born, there are certain verses in which Indra speaks about the power of bhakti. And finally, the whole episode is over. Indra speaks about the power of bhakti. Or even, I think the Chitraketu Vritrasur episode also, the Devatas, when they offer prayers to the Lord, they talk about pure bhakti. So Maharaj mentioned that sometimes we see, in the examples of the Devatas, through that we can see, sometimes a person is not in the level of pure bhakti, but he speaks about pure bhakti. He's aware that, okay, this is the highest level, pure devotional service. At the same time, they are aware that I am not in that level truly, because certain attachments are still, they are not able to come out of it. The Devatas, they speak about pure devotional service, although they have some attachment to different position. So he said that in that way we may find people speaking about pure bhakti, but while being not in that level, not like genuinely, honestly, they are also aware of that, but they speak about pure bhakti. So in that way, they are aspiring for that, but at the same time, at that time, they are not able to overcome those attachment. Like Indra and others, they asked from Lord Vishnu that, please tell us how can we kill Vritrasur. There's a prayer. The Vishnu is telling to the Devatas that, so you have called me, but ultimately you are still wanting to attach to your kingdom and the throne. So I feel very bad that you are still remaining attached to your material aspirations, like that he says. So Devatas, in their prayers, they glorified the Lord. So similarly, sometimes our position to some extent or other, we are also like this sometimes. We glorify, we speak about pure bhakti, but we also have our attachments to deal with. So to the extent we are aware, we are connected with the devotees, and we try to work on it. I think due course of time, and we'll be able to progress.
Prujit, this is the other side of it, what you shared, that when a devotee is able to see in the light of pure devotion his own shortfall, and thus he is able to speak the principle of pure bhakti with keeping humility of what he is at. So this is one aspect. The other thing is like to speak on something also, one gets some adhikar to speak on it if he's trying to work on it also. Otherwise, if he's not at all doing anything connected to it, he's just speaking. So it is not proper for him.
Yes.
So the false ego can also start seeing the the thing that he's working with. And if one is like, I'm talking from myself only, that if one is very conscious of his endeavor side rather than what he's short of, then that endeavor can make him self-righteous, and pride can come out of just telling the point only that I am already doing. So it is not like he will tell others, but in the mind, he's basically thinking of his own example as he tells the point and how it worked in his life. So in one sense, he's like calling himself only sincere. He's good. So how one actually walks against this whole, because he has
when
to
we speak our own example, when we give our own example,
he will not speak his own example, but one has to speak. And if he has to speak, then he should be able to relate to it that he is practicing to some degree. Otherwise, if he's speaking something like if someone asks me give a class on holy name, I feel like I'm not really practicing very well. So that I don't give. But if someone says, which I feel like, okay, I have something I'm trying to work on also, then I have some feeling of confidence that I can speak on this subject. But when I speak on that subject, then obviously there is some connection to what I have been able to practice. So then it should not also bring the pride that I could. So when we relate the thing, we may not relate with our example to others. We may not tell our example. We may tell the great souls examples only. But in the mind, the background is that there is certain thing that we are practicing. So that also causes a sense of pride. So how to remain in the simple understanding of sadhaka while seeing the endeavor of us. I am sorry if I'm.
Yeah, I think being in the association of devotees, that will, I think, protect us. The different frictions which will happen, it will eventually purify us, I think. Generally, many of these how-to questions, at least as we keep progressing, as we keep at least taking responsibilities, interacting with the devotees, in due course of time, I think it will be taken care of with them. And when a person remains aloof, then goes away from the association, then it is difficult. But at least if we are in the association and trying to do different services, maybe due course of time, even if we go one track and then some indication will come from somewhere, and then that will help us. We'll go ahead. That's true.
Hare Krishna. When gopis felt little pride that Krishna is only with us, immediately Krishna disappeared. So I feel when you told, when we are in the association of devotees, there will be enough opportunities that to make us humble and also we understand our own position. Like among devotees, if you stay in the association of devotees, surely this is very, very great internal work with Prabhuji is telling. Very, very sincere sadhaka stage. So just sticking in the association of devotees over a period of time, these things will automatically revealed. And also devotees with some kind of signal. So these will come. I am remembering this Gopi's example. They felt pride that they are among, Krishna is only with them. So immediately Krishna disappeared from that scene. So Lord will make us to reveal. I feel like. Just addition, sorry.
So in the next chapter, Maitreya Rishi begins. Iti bruvanam nrupatim gayaka muni chodita tushta manasas tadvag amrita sevaya. Can read.
The great sage Maitreya continued.
While King Prithu thus spoke, the humility of his nectarian speeches pleased the reciters very much. Then again they continued to praise the king highly with exalted prayers, as they had been instructed by the great sages.
So you see, the Sutta Magadavandi, Pruthu Maharaj told from his part, but because the singers, they were very pleased by hearing the Pruthu's words, and as an order by the sages, they are being advised by the sages, they continue to praise Pruthu. Pruthu Maharaj, did not become angry. He accepted them with his humility, because these people were doing they were not simply flattering. They were actually, because the Brahmana sages, they ordered the Sutta Magadan Vandi to praise him, and they started praising. So here Prabhupada explains about Guru Sadhu Shastra again. Muni Chodita indicates instructions received from the sages and saintly person. Although Pruthu Maharaj was simply enthroned on the royal seat and was not at that time exhibiting his godly powers, Suta Magadan Vandi understood King Pruthu was an incarnation of God. They could understand this by the instructions of the great sages. So we have to understand the incarnations of God by the instructions of the authorized person. So Sadhu, Shastra, Guru. One has to test all the spiritual matters according to the instructions of the saintly person, scriptures and the spiritual matters. I remember some months back, one devotee was discussing with him, initiated devotee. He started arguing that what is the pramana for Guru Sadhu Shastra? So that I could see this as a serious problem actually. Because sometimes like when we hear different things, like when we are not careful, we can get contaminated by different things actually. If we observe, see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life should be carefully observed because he is the ideal example of a devotee. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very careful in regards to hearing and eating. He would take prasadam in the house of those who chant 1 lakh names. And hearing, he would be, whatever he would hear, it would be examined by Sarup Damodar Goswami for two things, Apasiddhanta and Rasabhas. But in regards to distribution, Mahaprabhu was more liberal. Patra patra nadeki sthana sthana. Sometimes we take the opposite this one. We become a little liberal in eating and hearing anything, but in distribution we become a little more conservative or become more, we emphasize more rules and this thing. So here, so sometimes, so I could see that the devotee was, he said he was asking Guru Sadhu Shastra, what is the pramana? What is, and he was seriously arguing and debating with me. So if you see in the Gita itself, Krishna never mentions himself as the pramana. Very few times he says that I said. He quotes the sadhus like the Tattvadarshibhi, 2nd chapter. That verse. He says that the seers of the truth have concluded the body is temporal and the soul is eternal. And then he quotes Rishibir Bahuda Geetam Chandobir Vividai Prutak Brahma Sutra Padeshaiva Hetu Madbir Vinishchite. Again he quotes Vedanta Sutra and Rishis. 18th chapter he quotes Sankhye Kritante Proktani Siddhaye Sarva Karmanam. According to the Vedanta Sutra, these 5 factors of action. And a very clear verse in the 16th chapter, Tasmat Shastram Pramanante Karya Karya Vyavastito. So Shastra is the Pramana. And even in the Yaksha Prashna, the last 4 questions asked by the Yaksha to Yudhishthira Maharaj, one of the questions is that what is the path? Which path to follow in life? And there Yudhishthira Maharaj speaks the famous verse that Nasa Vrishiryasya Matam na Binnam Dharmasya Tattvam Nihitam Gugaya Mahajano Yena Gatasapanta. So the path of the Mahajanas, that is the way to follow. That shows the path of Dharma. Dharma Stapana Hetu Sadhura Vyavahara. Mahaprabhu said, because Madhavendra Puri had taken prasadam at your house, therefore I will follow his path. So, so this Guru, Sadhu and Shastra, when we have a doubt about, because whenever we hear from a person, there is some doubt of is it a subjective thing or is it a real Shastra? Because hearing from a person, many times there is a doubt of, oh, this is a subjective thing. So then better we get clarified, okay, what is the Shastric principle you are addressing? There is a doubt, can clarify what is the pramana for this, what is the Shastric principle you are addressing, and how you are saying how to apply this. And when we talk about Shastra, Shastra means the entire gamut of the Shastras. Entire gamut of the Shastras. Bhagavatam, of course, the highly ripened Shastra, but the Dashamula Tattva, when you read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book, he mentions the 10 points. The first point is that Shastra is the Amnaya Sutra. The Shastras are the Pramana. And then when he talks about the Shastra, he says Vedas, Upanishads, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam. And the books written by the Acharyas on this. So sometimes when we talk about Shastras, when people have a limited understanding, oh, Mahabharata is not required or Ramayana is not required, quote only from this one. So then that is also like that's not a very integral understanding. Shastra means the whole gamut of the Shastras. Yeah, Bhagavatam is the Shastra which teaches purely about love for Krishna. Prabhupada writes in a purport in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adilila, 7th chapter. He says, Srimad Bhagavatam teaches only about love of Krishna. And when we talk about life principles, other aspects, we can take other Shastras, Ramayana, Mahabharata. For example, so once one devotee asked that, what is the pramana? You say that Mahabharatam teaches about life, Bhagavatam teaches about love of God. Where is it mentioned Mahabharata teaches about life? So I was thinking that I can't give a clear statement pramana, but just try to think in this way. Say, for example, when we talk about in the Bhagavatam, how does the Bhagavatam speak about a wife? Bhagavatam says that a wife is Swajanakya Dasyu. In fact, family members are considered to be like the Swajanakya Dasyu. Swajanakya Dasyu means they are actually robbers. In the name of the relatives, like that it is mentioned. But in the Mahabharata, the Yaksha, in the one shloka from Mahabharata, Yaksha Prashna is asked, in the Yaksha is asking Yudhishthira Maharaj about friends. Who is a friend at home? Who is the friend of a traveling person? Who is the friend of a deceased person? Who is the friend of a dying person? So Yudhishthira Maharaj says that the friend of a person at home is the wife. So just see these two ideas. Bhagavatam says that wife is a Swajanakya Dasyu. So Mahabharata says that wife is the friend at home. So suppose somebody is getting married. Like suppose if you say that, oh, you are getting married. Oh, very good that a burglar is coming to your house. Like, what would a person feel like actually? Which answer would be more suitable for him? In fact, the Vedic, if you see the marriage mantras during the Saptapadi, they circumambulate 7 times. There's a mantra is chanted. The meaning of that mantra is that, so we both have become friends. So let us cooperate with each other, practice the dharma. You are my friend. The mantra itself clearly says the friend. So just one example I'm saying. So because Bhagavatam, it is spoken to a person who is about to die, who has to be relieved of all the attachments, all the family attachments. Therefore, Bhagavatam contains that such kind of statements. The family members are like the burglars. But Mahabharata, because it is more dealing with the life, so it is saying, Yudhishthira Maharaj is saying that wife is a friend at home. This is just one example. There are many other examples. We can see that Mahabharata, Ramayana, they talk about life principles. For example, if you want to learn from Kunti Maharani how she trained as a mother, how she actually, if you want to learn the parenting lessons from Kunti as a mother, so can we learn from Bhagavatam? Is it possible to learn from Bhagavatam how Kunti played the role of a mother? No, we can't learn, because the only instance about Kunti is the Kunti's prayers actually. If you want to learn from Bhishma Dev about how he made decisions, so can we learn from Bhagavatam? No, you can't learn, because the only thing we see in the Bhagavatam is Bhishma Dev's devotional prayers, and just 2 verses it is mentioned that Bhishma Dev taught Sri Dharma, Raja Dharma, Kula Dharma, Ashram Dharma, which goes in 1500 pages in Mahabharata, but that is just summarized in 2 verses in the Bhagavatam. Because Suta Goswami did not feel the need to elaborate all those things, because Bhagavatam is a scripture which is focused purely on love for Krishna. Therefore, he just edited all those things. He only focused only on the Bhagavad Dharma aspect of Bhishma Dev. So therefore, why I'm mentioning is that when we talk about Shastra, Shastra means we take the entire gamut of the Shastras. Out of that, so out of that, Bhagavatam is a scripture which teaches about purely about love for Krishna. That is why it is called Amalam Purana. In the Mahabharata, we are approaching not for learning for love for Krishna. We are going to learn different life principles. I don't know, here I mentioned.
Prabhuji, but we also see in Bhagavatam also we find the teaching, Diti is giving, speaking, and then she's telling how wife is a friend, and we can learn like principles of parenting, how Krishna was tended by his parents. Means there are other sections where these things also appear. If somebody is having only Bhagavatam as scripture,
Yeah, they can be drawn actually. See, those things. Bhagavatam, you can draw some of those things, but Bhagavatam is completely focused on love for Krishna. Other things, as in the course of the story, Prabhupada brings out a different about the psychology of a man, women. He brings out different varnashram principles. He brings out that, but otherwise, Bhagavatam is solely focused on this. So when I mentioned, when we say that Mahabharata, we are not going to approach Mahabharata or other scriptures for learning love for Krishna. It is like, suppose a postman comes to your house and postman starts dictating that so I want to tell you what all menu should be there in your, what menu you should cook in your dinner, lunch. I want to know the menu for your next 1 week. Suppose the postman says, like, we are not going to take the postman's opinion for what menu to be cooked at our kitchen. For that, the only authority is the wife at home or the mother at home. Similarly, for the Bhakti Yoga and for knowing about the pastimes of the Lord, the Supreme Lord, the main authority is the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are not going to accept other scriptures further. But that does not mean that we reject the postman altogether. We don't accept the postman in the role of a person who is going to give the menu in the kitchen, but we can accept the postman in the role of somebody who can deliver some cookbook as a courier in our home.
Prabhuji, one more
Deliver
question.
some cookbook. Just 1 minute, I'm coming. That postman can deliver the cookbook. We can accept the postman in that role. So similarly, Mahabharata can be taken in that role as something in the life principles through the characters of, say, Arjuna, or Arjuna as a student, how he learned archery. Can we learn from Bhagavatam actually? So we can't learn that. So we can learn that from the Mahabharata. In that way, we can see different characters.
So, which is there an instance where sometimes these principles of love of God and principles of living a life, the conflict, and is there any instance where it happens like that, and then we have to decide which actually principle for us,
No,
or is it from where
is there any instance?
means if it is a two different scriptures are there for proposing two different ways of living, preparing for. So does it happen anytime, any place that sometimes there's a conflict seen between the principles taught
Huh.
by Mahabharata and Bhagavad?
Say, for example, see, when we see Bhagavatam, how it describes Parishit Maharaj's departure, when Parishit Maharaj was cursed, Bhagavatam says that Parishit Maharaj, he renounced everything, he came to the Ganges and he took shelter of the devotees and he heard Krishna Katha. Mahabharata describes that Parishit Maharaj, he built a palace. Mahabharata does not mention about Parishit Maharaj hearing from the sages. Parishit Maharaj built a palace to protect himself from Takshaka. That's how Mahabharata describes. So here there seems to be a conflict between Mahabharata and the Bhagavatam. So how do we see that? See, one way to see is that because the highest dharma is taking shelter of Krishna. But another aspect of dharma is to put all your effort to prolong your life. Put your maximum effort to prolong your life. When you get a disease, you put your effort to get rid of the disease. This is a lower dharma. So Mahabharata teaches about this aspect of dharma of life, that how Parishit Maharaj put his effort to protect himself from that bird Takshaka. But Bhagavatam is focusing on that Bhagavata dharma, how he took shelter of Krishna Katha. And another way to see this is that, but then there is a conflict between the two scriptures, Bhagavatam and Mahabharata. So, in fact, it is said that in the Matsya Puran, there is a verse which comes that that Matsya Puran verse says that that verse talks about the Bhagavatam, the Purana which tells the story of a famous man who flourished in the Saraswata Kalpa and also narrates the destruction of the Vritrasur, is known as the Bhagavata Puran. So from this verse of Matsya Puran, it appears that Bhagavata Purana is describing the events that took place in the Saraswata Kalpa. And our present Kalpa is called as Shweta Varaha Kalpa. Shweta Varaha Kalpa. So therefore, one of the explanation is that when the different scriptures speak about the same events differently, like in this case, Parishit Maharaj, this one. So the understanding is because they can be speaking about the same events which took place in different kalpas. Different kalpas. So the same event have taken place differently. So therefore, they are described differently. This is one understanding. So just 1 minute, let me complete. And another thing is that there is among the 10 pramanas, one pramana is called as Anyata Anupapatti. What is this pramana? This pramana is that when a truth cannot be explained by any other means, then you have to imagine a solution. Like here, Bhagavatam is describing Parishit Maharaj's departure in a way, Mahabharata describing in another way. So, suppose if you don't know whether there's a conflict here, therefore you have to imagine a solution. That solution is that, okay, they are describing the events in the different kalpas. Because suppose if you say that Bhagavatam is right and Mahabharatam is wrong, what is described about Parishit Maharaj in the Mahabharata, how Parishit Maharaj built a palace to protect himself, that is wrong, and Bhagavatam is only right, And that means what you are saying, one Shastra is right, another Shastra is wrong. That is a wrong thing. Or if you say Mahabharata is right, Bhagavatam is wrong, and that is also wrong. Because all are actually Shastras. All are Shastras. Therefore, you cannot say either one is wrong. At the same time, you have to give an explanation. That is the pramana called as Anyata Anupapatti. Like simple example, say Ramesh is eating in night. Ramesh does not eat in daytime, but his weight is increasing. So in order to reconcile both the statements, you have to give explanation. Oh, he is eating in night time. So similarly, if these two, the same event is described in different way, without rejecting either of the Shastra, you have to give an explanation. And that explanation is the Kalpa. Okay, this happened in another Kalpa and this happened in another Kalpa. And of course, Matsya Puran says that, oh, this is a Bhagavatam describes the events in Saraswata Kalpa. Oh, there's a Pramana also for that. So in that way, we can see the Shastras and this thing.
Like my question was, Prabhuji, like Bhagavatam advises to practice pure devotional service right from beginning of one's life. Right now, when somebody is getting married, you give one example that this is what Mahabharata said, this is what Bhagavatam says. So if person has to see actually how it applies, like how one should take, how one should see one's wife. So how one would decide that actually what view one takes at the same time that he's following. No, it's not like later part of the life he'll be thinking like that, or no, when a Bhagavatam applies or when Mahabharata applies. This one example you give, that's I'm putting that example. In other times also, like how one decides.
We can see from the examples in the Shastras how the instructions were given. Let us see the example of the Mahajans only. Mahajano ena gada sapanta. So if we see Bhishma Dev, suppose if we say that only Bhagavatam should be taken, like whatever, even if we light lessons, everything you extract only from the Bhagavatam, don't even go to Mahabharata or anything. If we say, that means what we are saying is that Bhishma Dev is wrong. Because Bhishma Dev should have spoken only Bhagavatam to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he was confused, like he should have spoken only about the Bhagavatam. But Bhishma Dev spoke about the Bhagavata Dharma, devotional service, but he also spoke about the so many other dharmas. But he that does not mean that he compromised any philosophy or something. So the whole point is that Jnana Karmadi Anavritam, you may teach about the other dharmas, but you have to teach them how to perform this other dharma that in such a way that it does not cover one's bhakti. That's all. Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. So Bhishma Dev is teaching to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Bhishma Dev himself is about to die, but because Yudhishthira Maharaj, he has a many years of ruling kingdom that is left out. So therefore, he teaches him about all these other dharmas and also about the devotional service. But for Parishit Maharaj, Shukdev Goswami is exclusively focusing on Bhagavad Dharma. So we can see from the example of the Mahajans that how the instructions were given, that we teach the Bhagavad Dharma and the Varnashram Dharma. Just like, to give another example, suppose somebody, say some person from Chalisgaon, he has to catch a flight in Mumbai airport to go abroad. Suppose he is scheduled to go to, say, New York. So then he has found out a lot of information about New York, and he finds out his accommodation is New York and how to go from New York to other places in America. He did all those homework for many days in for many days before catching the flight. But he didn't do good homework about catching the flight in time. In order to catch the flight in the airport, he didn't do proper homework, when to leave from Chalisgaon, Will there be traffic jam from Chalisgaon to Mumbai airport? What will there be any breakdown? What is the situation in the road? He doesn't do much homework, and then he catches the taxi at the last moment, and then on the way the taxi gets broken down, or there is a traffic jam, or the driver is drunkard. So many problems happen, but he has done lot of homework about what he will do in New York. And suppose that person on the way to airport, his vehicle gets broken down, and at that time like you are supposed to give a solution based about how to repair the vehicle and then how to reach the airport immediately. But if we only keep speaking about oh, what will happen, don't worry, if you go to New York, you will have a comfortable life. If you're only speaking about that aspect, that will not be relevant to him. So many times people are caught up in the different traffic jams of this world. That means when we are dealing with the people, many times they are caught up with the different immediate problems of their life. And sometimes when we speak only about transcendence, now he's got up in the traffic jam or the, but if we say, don't worry, no, I will speak about the New York. But he's not able to relate to that. You have to give a solution about the immediate problem. And then once his vehicle is broken down, once a person comes to the airport, maybe then then you can little properly speak about, okay, New York and this. So that is why one quote Prabhupada mentioned. There's a quote of Prabhupada. He said, so our philosophy is a very high philosophy. It requires a cool brain to understand such a high philosophy. But people, they are not leading their life properly. First, teach them how to live. And then when they become little sane, then they'll be able to understand our high philosophy, like that he mentioned. So therefore, we should have Varnashram colleges associated with our temple, which can teach people how to live, like that Prabhupada mentions. So therefore, there has to be a balance between Iha and Para. This worldly dharmas and our eternal dharma, that is devotional service. So about this worldly dharmas, about different situations in this world, how to deal with the different conflicts. So for that, we have to see the lives of the devotees, how they led their lives. The Pandavas are pure devotees. During their lives, how they went through different conflicting situations and what principles can be drawn from that. And from that, we can learn different conflict in dharmas, different principles. And that will help us to deal with the breakdowns during our life so that we can catch the flight in time. So in that sense, the Shastras have a different role. So,
one more way, because this is always a conflict between Vedic literature and Upanishadic literature of doing worldly duties and renouncing. So, is it the Gita's teachings, like Bhagavatam, internally follow the principles of Bhagavatam, and for living in external world, we follow, like we understand how scripture like Mahabharata and others.
what conflict? What?
Like whether to do worldly duties with like all the Vedas as they prescribe worldly prosperity, and Upanishads generally they talk about renouncing this world. But like this, as per Gita, one internally renounces and externally carries on the duties. So that way also can we see Mahabharata and other scriptures are specifically for how it should be dealings, and Bhagavatam more of how internal consciousness of a devotee should be.
Bhagavatam is teaching us the devotional consciousness, how the devotees exhibited their deep devotional consciousness in different points of their life. So how to practice bhakti yoga in different points of life. Bhagavatam teaches
internal consciousness more of, and then for dealing external dealings we refer these other scriptures.
So in Bhagavatam also there are sections there are sections where we can learn from the devotees how they balanced Bhagavad Dharma and others. Bhagavatam also contains that. But Bhagavatam's focus is, because Prabhupada clearly says in a purport, Bhagavatam teaches only love of Krishna. So that is the focus. But regarding the different, more detailed, if you want to learn other aspects, like parenting, if you want to learn from Draupadi, how she actually dealt with her husbands. If you want to give some relationship lessons in the family based on the character of Draupadi. So can we learn from Mahabharata? Bhagavatam, it is difficult to take actually. But Mahabharata, the conversation between Draupadi and Yudhishthir, so that can be taken. So the point is, the Rupa Goswami's definition of bhakti, jnana karmadi anavratam, that is a very important this one. In our practice of bhakti, bhakti should not be covered by jnana and karma. And when we teach also, when we teach the, say, the different aspects of other dharmas, it's not that we teach them in such a way that it does not cover our bhakti. So jnana and karma, they are like the body, bhakti is like the soul. Vishwanath Chakravarti says that karma yoga and jnana yoga are like the body, bhakti yoga is like the soul. So when we are taking care of the needs of the soul, it does not mean that we neglect the needs of the body. Because when we neglect the needs of the body, then eventually we end up spending more time for the body. We become sick and then we end up more. So therefore, jnana and karma, they should not be neglected. Karma yoga is basically the varnashram duties performed as a service to Krishna. So they can be learnt from the scriptures. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
So tomorrow we'll complete this chapter, next chapter. Prantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.